Always remember, your focus determines your reality. Stay close to me, and you'll be safe.
What's up, guys? Let's talk in this video over of Nest and the uses of Nest still in GAs after the reworked Geos, and whether you want to use her for offensively or defensively, and it kind of depends. But let's just go talk about that, and I'll let you guys know what I think about if you should use Nest defensively or offensively. So let's go into it. So in the GACs, guys, it's a lot more competitive. Of course, you guys should know that already. But the real big question I think you should be asking yourselves is if you should be using her defensively or offensively. Mine here is pretty much maxed besides Gear 13. I'm running her actually for more speed than anything. And the reason I want her to be, fast is because I'm using her actually in the Django team and making sure that that team is a really hard team to beat. Yes, I probably could use Zam instead of her, but the Nest team on defense really helps out. And at my level, and this is the biggest thing I think, at my level in GA, literally nobody since the start of GAC's been happening. Nobody has been setting easy one-shot solo teams like a Nest or like a Ewok team for Nest, or a Rogue One team. I haven't seen anything of that sort, guys. So that's another big reason why I'm using her defensively from now on. You might think that's a bad idea, but if you were to see what I'm going up against, you would probably think otherwise. Just to show you guys what it actually is, this is probably an average showing of like who I'm fighting every single GA. First zone, Darth Rev and Malak. Nest can't solo that, neither can she solo the Night Sister team. And here, can't solo any of that. Okay, back zones, what is it looking like? Can't solo any of that. Okay, what about back here? Can't solo that. Maybe the Geos, but I'd probably say no because there's stuns and there's some dazes now from the new Geos. Probably would stay away from that. So honestly, there isn't really too much use I'm going to get out of Nest when I use her offensively. And that's not to say that, with being her slow modded, a lot of tenacity, that probably could work. It's going to be a lot sketchier versus some of those backwall teams like the Newt team, so I don't recommend using that. But I mean, if you guys do want to, use a Nest like that, you can also fit her into, it's probably not solo team, but maybe like a Jedi Revan team, an undersized team like that. A lot of buffs happening, a lot of extra, making sure that she's not going to die, like a lot of protection, defenses, stuff like that. So I think maybe in that regards, you could probably save Nest for offense. But for the main and the most part to this whole GA, I think it's going to be a lot more beneficial to run her defensively, just because now there are so many different teams, and I think Nest is going to be really easy. Just plop her on defense, and either you're going to use a really hard counter to it, or you're not going to be able to beat her at all. So an example of here, guys, is this is the Django team I was using. As you can see here, I'm using the Django, Bosk, or Boba, Dengar, and Nest. Nest is going to be second fastest, getting the Frenzy, and then, or giving a Bosk Frenzy, and then she does her AoE days, and then, just the TM, for Bosk just keeps ramping up and up and up. So that's a really tough team. This probably, he was able to one-shot this because he probably used a Traya team, or, like a Jedi Revan team or something to that extent that was really, like a pretty much a hard counter to Nest, and that leaves my Geo's team for him to not have any counters versus. So the Nest can really make it so it shuts down counters for other potential teams. So he was really, having to decide whether he wanted to use I'm gonna just say he was gonna use Trey versus. Maybe he was thinking maybe I should use Trey versus this team, and hopefully I can burn through the Geos, or use Trey versus Geos, and then have to use something versus the Bounty Hunters. So he was really at a hard spot here to decide which teams you want to use the really hard counter versus, and that's really the biggest point here. If you throw Nest down here, guys, they're pretty much forced to use a really hard counter, and I guess it's a case-by-case basis of like who you're fighting against. But I've been running Nest in the back wall for over like the last few GAs, and then I put Night Sisters in the front wall. Just makes it so if they do happen to waste Traya on my Night Sisters, I have Nest in the back wall with that team. and it just really does a lot of cool, you know, gets for the most part a lot of good holds. If not, they're going to one-shot it with something really good, like I just said, and then they'll have to be stuck with my GOs. So in my case, this is what I'm using. You guys can, you know, swap it around, you know, do some of your own things, some of your own tweaking to it. But honestly, for me personally, in my division, it just doesn't seem to be the best and most effective way for me to, you know, save Nest and use her offensively. I'd rather just use her defensively in a really good team like the Django team. And that's kind of how I'm feeling about it right now. Alright, so to put this in perspective to you guys and what it looks like for me, I'm in Div 2. I'm probably one of the highest Div 2 players out there, like I'm top 1,000. And I'm fighting a lot of Div 1s, and actually, just to show you guys and to make a really annoying point of why I don't like matchmaking, I think matchmaking is good for the most part, but I still think it needs a little bit of tweaking. I'm fighting a guy in Div 1 that is ranked number 34. This guy has flawless stats on every single GA he's had. I don't think he's lost one yet, and I just don't think it is right for me to have to fight this guy. It just doesn't make sense to me, guys. But let's go back to the point I was trying to get at here. So the leagues and which league you're going to be in and the divisions. So I'm in Div 2, and I think the cutoff of when you're starting to see more defenses that don't have like the Ewoks or the Rogue One or any really easy counter for Nest, I think it kind of cuts off from Div 3 to 2. So if you guys do happen to like have Nest in any of these earlier divisions, like she's still a great offensive counter, and I still recommend her. But I really just don't find her too useful on offense when you're fighting people like we just saw that never put those easy solo teams in there for Nest to be able to solo, right? You're not going to be really maximizing her uses or her usage in the GA when you're just, you know, having plop her down and use her in like a really, you know, wonky team. You don't know if it's going to work or not. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And you just kind of are at a loss there. I think for the most part, you're getting a lot more uses out of her defensively. And I'm not saying like the point of this video isn't me saying that Nest should never be used offensively ever again, okay? I don't think that's the case here. It's a case-by-case basis, and you can always swap it around, guys. For me personally, I have a good amount of offensive teams that I don't need to use to use Nest, so I need to probably use her more defensively because I need more defensive teams. I'm missing Malik. I'm missing a Gear 13 Grievous. I'm missing a lot of, you know, the droids. I can't use those guys on defense just yet, so Nest for the meantime is going to be a defense for me. Okay, so now that we went over some of the Nest stuff, we could go into the Wampa a little bit. I kind of want to save Wampa for a different video, but for the most part, Wampa, it's kind of similar, but more offense, I think. A Rex, Wampa, and Hoda can beat a lot of different variations of First Order versus the main 5 here, which has Crew, OG Kylo, Stormtrooper, Executioner, and Officer. Those 5, when you want to, you know, think about using Wampa, that can be kind of sketchy, especially when they're like all maxed out at Gear 12 or even more. I haven't seen a Gear 13 First Order yet, but if you do, that's kind of probably sketchy, and you probably want to throw in an extra 4th with Rex, Wampa, Hoda. What I've been using recently versus those maxed out teams is actually a Barris. Extra healing, you know, makes sure that Rex doesn't typically die. Sometimes he does die, but as long as Wampa is, you know, not having the stuns on him and he's able to do his big damage, it always works out for me in the end, and I get around, you know, 59, 60 banners, like maybe even more depending on if Rex dies, or, you know, low end like 57, 56. Like, it's still really good banners, and I still think for the First Order counter, Rex, Wampa, Hoda is a great counter to that team. But if you don't want to use Wampa on offense and you don't want to, you know, get easy banners, you can definitely throw him in to defense teams. And the biggest team I think for him right now that really fits in well is, let's go check it out, the Old Republic team with Karth lead. So this team is all about the dots, and when you pair Wampa's Zeta on the Cornered Beast, he gains even more offense per each of the dots. And, you know, with Canderous being there, with Karth, you know, and Mission, like all those guys inflicting on the debuffs and all the dots, his damage is going to get ramped up. And in that team specifically, if you can't handle and deal with the Wampa early on, you're going to just lose. He's going to go out of the control, and you're going to just get one shot. So I think actually Wampa in that regards is really great. And if you do want to, you know, use him defensively, that's a pretty good, you know, option for you to be able to keep Nest for offense, so you don't have to have both for offense or both for defense. I think it's a good way to have one for, you know, either or, one for offense. In this case that I'm using Wampa for offense, and I'm also using Nest for defense. So you gotta just, you know, like I said before, guys, you gotta find, you know, the sweet spot with what you're fighting against in your typical GA. You gotta, you know, figure out your teams that you're gonna be placing defensively and offensively. If you need Nest, bring her in for offense. If you don't, leave her for defense. Pretty basic stuff, guys. And just quickly went over the Wampa at the end. So if you guys did find this, you know, helpful, you know, informative, anything like that, make sure you give me a like. Comment down in the comments below. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. What are you using Nest with? You know, defensively or offensively? Would love to hear you guys' thoughts. You know, sharing this and subbing really helps out my channel, guys. We're pretty close to the 2K mark. I would love to hit that pretty soon, guys. We'll do a special video for that. But that's gonna be it for today, guys. Also have links for Discord and Patreon. Go check out those two. But that's it for today, and I'll see you guys later.
You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking.